I didn't think that people like me from like a normal kind of, normal in my mind, family would need therapy.
So someone might have suggested therapy to you.
There is still a little bit of stigma and shame perhaps attached to it.
But what do therapists actually do?
I think of my therapist as a personal trainer, essentially.
I think the key thing for me is the sort of the non-judgment.
How can you choose one?
It's like Tinder, you know, like how do I know this person's good? Or I like look at this one and you're like...
And how does the relationship work?
It is a different type of relationship to one you'd have with a family member or with a friend or with a colleague.
I'm Rakusen, and I've seen 4 pretty different therapists. So like Minds, this week we want to know why that relationship with your therapist really matters and how you can go about finding somebody who fits the bill.
I think maybe there's still this sort of image of therapy of the kind of like lie down
Oh gosh, like
on a very stiff couch, surrounded by wall-to-wall books, loads of mahogany, stinks of mahogany.
That is exactly what I thought the first time I ever went into a room.
Was it?
This is Saffron. Since she started going to therapy, she's seen 5 different therapists.
But they're just normally like bright, airy rooms with like soft furnishings. They do love a soft furnishing.
Is this your chair? My chair. Only?
That just tends to be where I do my work.
How's that for the relationship?
Well, the irony is if I could swivel round like this, and this is actually very traditional counselling.
Maybe you could use the couch. Actually, I quite like this. We could begin.
Yes. Tell me about your mother.
James, shut the door.
Myra is a counsellor. She focuses on psychodynamic and integrative counselling. She helps people cope with conditions like anxiety and depression and difficult life events like bereavement or relationship breakdowns. There are hundreds of types of therapy. So when you're trying to pick one, what are some of the key things to consider?
I think it's a combination of perhaps 3 things. It's a combination of a counsellor who you get along with. It's a combination of the modality, the type of counselling you get. And then thirdly, that counselling then is going to actually help you address that issue that you've come with.
Saffron has been diagnosed with complex PTSD, depression and anxiety. She's experienced sexual abuse and she was 13 years old when she started therapy.
I told my mum that I'd taken an overdose and she took me to hospital and then they made me go to therapy. So I was kind of made to go. It wasn't like a conscious decision.
But her journey with therapy didn't have a positive beginning.
The first thing she said to me was, "Why didn't you make that abuse stop?" And I just walked out and found my mum in the waiting room and I was like, "We're not going to come back here, this is fine."
Therapists and counsellors are humans and sometimes they can end up saying the wrong thing. And a lot of the success of therapy is based on the relationship you have with the therapist you're working with.
What's crucial to all therapy, what's been proven, what's shown in the research and the evidence, is that therapy is only as effective as how good the therapeutic relationship is between therapist and client. If you don't feel you're benefiting, if you don't feel that it's working for whatever reason, you can walk away, you have the choice.
Like most relationships, sometimes therapeutic relationships have to come to an end. And trust me, that can feel really awkward. So what's the right way to go about it?
For me, as a therapist, it's about having that honest conversation with my client, but it's not with the aim to convince them otherwise, but rather let's understand why then our relationship is coming to an end. 9
years after her first experience and 4 therapists later, Saffron found somebody who really worked well with her.
This woman changed my life. She was, I think, so compassionate, so understanding. This pulled together to be an amazing partnership, I think.
Were you nervous about going because of your previous experience?
It's always made me feel guilty, my problems aren't problems. You probably think that I'm a whiny, privileged, white girl, having the standard problems that everyone has, just get on with it,
In 2016 to 17, there were around 1.4 million new referrals to the NHS's Improving Access to Psychological Therapies, or IAPT programme. If you're getting therapy through the NHS, you might not be able to choose who you see. But if the relationship isn't working, then you can ask for a referral to a different therapist. You might have to wait though.
I find that for a lot of clients, there will very often be something that they identify or can relate to in their counsellor when they are in a position of choosing a counsellor. That could be because there is an ethnic, cultural or religious similarity. And it is often because they feel that then their therapist is going to understand them better.
Do you do it every other week?
Yes, because it's so expensive.
Private therapy can cost money, but is it always expensive?
There are services across the board now that range in price. I absolutely understand that there will be counselling services and therapeutic services out there that are going to be within the reach but also out of reach of different people in different income brackets. It's about trying to access what you can afford, and of course you can access counselling through the NHS, but understandably a long waiting list.
So finding the right therapist can be a bit of a minefield. So we asked you lot how you did it.
I looked up the reviews and user experiences to see what people were saying, and then I went to my GP and asked for a referral.
I emailed a doctor, a psychiatrist who specialised in gender and sexuality. And he pretty much sort of matched me with a therapist, a psychologist who he thought I would work well with.
Saffron has found therapists through local charities. There's also professional bodies like the British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy and the UK Council for Psychotherapy, which both host a free directory of accredited therapists. And then how do you know if the relationship will even work? If you're feeling up to it, you could always try the old-fashioned route and pick up the phone.
I phoned one lady and she asked me, have you phoned anyone else? Are you speaking to anyone else? I was like, it's very much to me feels like a business transaction, which I can't gel with. So, I said, oh, thank you, but I feel like I'm just going to look elsewhere.
You might have heard the saying, who needs a therapist when you've got friends? But there is something slightly different about a therapist.
How much are you allowed to kind of let out of Myra?
That's an interesting one in terms of boundaries. It's about bringing myself, so I'm still being me, but there is definitely a boundary around self-disclosure and not being personal, because again, it's about the client. It's their time. It's not about me. So they don't need to sit and hear about my personal life or hear about my holidays, because I think that kind of dilutes the work. But potentially another counsellor from a different type of therapy will have different boundaries.
Do you talk about your therapist? Do you say things like, my therapist, and people go, oh, banging on about therapist again?
I had a thing where I felt ashamed and embarrassed that I spent however many hours a month talking to someone about my feelings, but I just want it to be so normal that I'm so willing to put up with eye rolls at this point, and I just say it and everyone's like, oh. Like
You've actually put the what's it called? The hammer on the nail, the head. What's the expression?